our theme today is Pathways Learning Experience. We have many people who are still trying to learn the Pathways system. And every time we get somebody new into Toastmasters, of course, then they also have to learn Pathways. There's a lot to learn when you first join Toastmasters, and we try to help you along the way because it can be overwhelming, and we don't want you to be overwhelmed. We want you to know that you always have somebody right there just to reach out to and say, hey, I need help. I did that even as district director, right guys? Hey, I need help. And we called on all of you a lot last year, and we'll be calling each of you to help through the years. Appreciate that. Our first speaker of the day will be Carol Snyder. And Carol, you're going to be doing the panel discussion. Do you want to go ahead and introduce how you're setting that up?
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. I'm going to be doing the panel discussion today, and I'll be leading a panel of, as JR said, 3 excellent speakers. We have JR, who is going to talk to us about completing a module in Pathways. So he's going to start with the people that are giving their speeches and trying to figure out, how do I make sure that everybody knows that I've completed the speech officially? Then we're going to move on, and Fred Warnbrock will be talking about the Pathways approval process. And then our final speaker of the panel is Joe Formansky, and Joe is going to talk about exploring Pathways reports. So there's a lot of different levels to this, and don't feel overwhelmed if you've never been in Pathways. There's a lot to learn, and everybody here is at a different level. People know some things that other people may not know. Some of us are complete newbies at it, and other people are very experienced. We would like people to put any questions you have in the chat so we can look at them. And at the end of our 3 presentations, we'll give people the opportunity to ask questions. So you can ask your question at the end. I can call on you. But sometimes it's nice to have it in the chat, because then you don't forget what you're going to say. And I see we have another guest that joined us. Hello, Ken Weir from the Monroeville Club. Glad you could make it. So with that, I would like to get started with our speakers today. And we're going to have 3 speeches that are a little bit on the longer side. So don't be overwhelmed by that. There's a lot of material to cover. But you won't have to hear me speak for too long. Our first speaker today is J.R. Ryu. And J.R. will present a step-by-step demonstration on how to complete a module in a pathway. Please help me welcome our club president, JR.
Thank you, Carol, fellow Toastmasters, and distinguished guests. I'm very excited to give this talk today about how to complete a module. Let me have a quick show of hands. How many of you think you know everything about the pathways? I think the answer is no. And that's why we're here. So I think nobody should feel embarrassed to ask any questions about the pathways along the way. So please make sure you ask all your questions along the way. Okay, I think the way I want to make this presentation today is kind of a demonstration presentation. So at this point, I think it'll be great if you're able to sign on to your Toastmasters International account and follow along. And that way you can try things out together with me. So I'll give you a little bit of time just to sign on to your Toastmasters account. Just a couple seconds.
Hey, JR, while people are doing that,
Yeah.
you're going to be doing 15 to 20 minutes for your presentation, correct?
Right, that's
So I
correct.
will give you the green card at 15 minutes, the yellow at 17, and a red around 20. Okay?
Mhm.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I think that was a great intervention right there, because I think I forgot about sharing my slides, sharing my screen. So now you're able to see my screen, right? Okay, great.
Yes, we are.
So once you are on the Toastmasters International website, signed on to your account, the first thing you see is this menu. And it says Pathways. So make sure you choose Pathways and then click on Go to Basecamp. So I think there was a question in the chat about what is the Basecamp, and the Basecamp in this case is a place where you can monitor your progress in terms of your pathways and also reporting your accomplishments regarding or progress regarding your pathways. So think of it as a dashboard in terms of pathways. When you click on Go to Basecamp, this is the landing page you arrive at. And there is a button that says Go to Basecamp. So we're not at the Basecamp yet, but there is a little bit of gotcha here, because if you are belonging to more than one club, there may be an option that says select your club there. So I'm a member of the State College Toastmasters Club and then also the Achievers Club. And in my case, I always see two options. So make sure you choose the right option there, because what this decides is where you give your credit, basically the speech you're making, where that credit goes. So in terms of the club receiving the credit. So make sure that you're picking the right option there, unless you want it to be just random. So you want it to be always the club you want. Now let's click on Go to Basecamp. And then once you get there, you have these options, Path and Learning, and then other options. But the option we want is Path and Learning. So click on Path and Learning. And then finally, we are at the dashboard we want. So it says Path and Learning, and it lists all these pathways you're signed up for. So in this case, the example I'm using is Fred, who's our second speaker today. And that's why his name's there. But we have motivational strategies Fred signed up for. We also have presentation mastery he signed up for. So we have two paths we're talking about. But let's pick the first option, which is motivational strategies. But you will see different paths because you signed up for your own path. So click on Open Curriculum in your screen. So, and finally, you are actually at the pathway or path you want to monitor and you want to manage. So you have everything here now. And this path actually has different levels, as you can see here. And it also has this progress bar. But this is, so 32% here is for the entire path. So you are done now by 32% in terms of completing your path. But you also have progress bars for each level, as you can see here. So the path in this case is motivation strategies, and you are looking at level 2 of that path, and you are done by 25% in this case. And then in each level, you have these individual projects you're supposed to be finishing up. So in this case, you can see Fred finished his first project in the level 2, which is understanding your communication style. And you can see that because you have that check mark. So that means you're finished with that project of the level of the path. So it's like very nested in this case. And then if you want to do another project at that level, so let's say in this case, the project you want to work on next is active listening. You want to, first of all, activate the project, and then the activate button will change into something called launch. So you click on launch, and then you get to basically the title page of that project. So right now the project is active listening, and that's what you're seeing. And it gives you a nice introduction of the project, as you can see here, in this case, active listening. And then it also shows what the assignment is, what the purpose of the project is, an overview. And sometimes it also gives you the time limits and all those other things. And you can also download this project checklist from the page. So when you download it and open it, it looks like this. And basically it shows all the to-do items you need to complete the project. So it's your personal checklist, and you can add, of course, your own tasks. Now, this is the second gotcha we wanted to really make sure you understand, because in order for you to be able to complete any kind of a project, you always have to do this assessment. Without completing the assessment, you're not able to get the credit. So make sure you're always finishing this assess your skills part of your project to get the credit. And it consists of several assessment questions. In this case, we have these questions. So the number of questions you can tell by these dots: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 dots. So that means you have 6 questions, 6 assessment questions you want to complete. And one thing I always get confused about this is because there's a advanced button here, there's another button that says next. So it's confusing sometimes, but for the assessment, we want you to click on next. And that's what will take you to the next question of the assessment. So when you answer all the assessment questions, then click on the advanced arrow here to the right. Then it will take you the next part of your project. So that's, I think, something that could be confusing to some of you, at least. Moving on. And then now you're getting into the content of the project, especially addressing all the skills the project is addressing. And you can see the beginning of that, all the competencies the project is trying to address. And it gets into more details. In this case, it's talking about hearing versus listening, the skill. And then after you go through all the competencies, all the content, you get to this page that says review and apply. So this is just giving you a summary of what you have basically studied in terms of acquiring new skills or refining your existing skills. And then this page tells you about what needs to be done to complete your project. So the project checklist is showing up again, and it talks about the steps, including scheduling your speech. And then for those of you who are just starting, this page shows what your evaluation criteria are when it comes to your speech getting evaluated. And you can see how you're rated one by one like that. And then one more thing I wanted to point out here is under resources. Yeah, there are these usual items like evaluation resource and also print my project. However, in some cases, there are some special things under the resources. So I want you to pay attention to that a lot, because I just finished my engaging humor level 3, and I was doing the first project of my engaging humor level 4. And the Toastmaster of the day was supposed to ask me some of these impromptu questions. I was looking for the list everywhere. I couldn't find it at all, but it was actually listed under resources here. So we were able to find the questions finally, but sometimes it's listed under resources. So make sure you take a close look at that. And then this is another very important step, because once you're done with your speech, once you have your evaluations, make sure you do this post-assessment. You did the pre-assessment earlier, and the questions are identical. However, if you don't finish the post-assessment, you're still not getting the credit. So make sure you finish these two sets of assessments, one pre and then the other post. And I guess the motivation for this is really to see the difference before and after, right? Before you weren't as skilled as probably after you gave your speech. So make sure you finish this post-assessment to get your credit. And that's really it in terms of completing your project at a certain level within your path. But there are additional things to make sure you get your credit. So once you are done with your project, now what you see is the check mark right there. So that's how you know it is really finished. One more thing I want to point out here is you just finished a project within a level, but let's say you finished all the projects within the level, including this one, Introduction to Toastmasters Mentoring. So now you finished all those 3 projects within the level, and you got a check mark on Introduction to Toastmasters Mentoring. However, you're not able to get your credit for that until you do some additional steps for the level. So you got the credit for the projects, but in order for you to be able to get your credit for the level, you have to do some additional things. So in this case, you don't see anything right now because you haven't finished Introduction to Toastmasters Mentoring next to the arrow. But if you finish that 3rd project, now you'll see something new here, which is this activate button for level 2 completion. So because you finished all the projects within the level, all of a sudden you see the button that says activate. And then of course, you can see here, the progress bar still says 75%. It's not 100% because you haven't taken care of this level 2 completion part.
JR?
Yeah.
Because I know some of the people are brand new, could you explain the difference between getting credit for your project and getting credit for the level?
So getting credit for the project is really making progress towards finishing your level. And each path consists of, I think, 5 levels. So you are making progress towards a level, in this case, by completing the projects, but level is just within.
Level is what the clubs get credit for.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. So in that,
yeah.
Mhm.
So it gets turned into the clubs when you complete a level.
It's a good point. Yeah, you should have just said it. Yeah, but yeah, in terms of clubs getting credit, yeah, level completion is really important, and that's, I think, what the next speakers are going to talk more about. Let's move on. So when you click on the activate button, you see some options there, and you click on launch, and this is what you get, and it's just talking about what to do next. So you have to find this mark complete button. So when you click on the launch and get to this page, you'll see the button actually changing into mark complete. So you click on mark complete, and then when you do that, you'll see this one basically saying pending completion approval. So what that means is now you're waiting for your level to be completed officially, but until your VP of Education approves it, it's not really completed. So what you have to see to make sure it's really completed, you have to actually see the status set as completed instead of pending. Pending completion approval is just something in the process. So you want to make sure it's actually showing as completed. And that's what your VP of Education takes care of. And that's what Fred is going to talk about next. So that is really it from the perspective of an end user, as an individual Toastmaster, completing a module and completing a level and eventually completing the entire path. And every time you're completing a project, every time you're completing a level, you're supposed to get these auto-generated emails. So in this case, when you completed your project, this is a sample email you're receiving. So let's say you completed your project and not getting any kind of an email, that means something's not right. But this doesn't require your VP of Education approval in this case. However, you're also supposed to get a level completion, which has a lot to do with getting credit for the club. And you're supposed to get an email when your VP of Education approves your request of completing the level. And this is how you know it's official. And there are some other ways to be able to track whether you're officially getting the credit and giving the credit to the club. And that is through this Leadership Central. Under Leadership Central, you see distinguished performance reports. And then you go to daily reports. And then you have an option, it's called educational achievements current year. And then it shows who's completed a level based on the district and club. And one thing I want to point out is you want to pick the right district for you to be able to see anything. If you don't choose your district, it's just going to show an empty screen. So make sure you're picking your district, and then you get to see your name and the club. So this is another way of checking whether you're actually getting the credit and giving the credit to your club. And let's say you're very accomplished and overachiever, you're getting this Triple Crown Award, and that should show up as one of those options. And you can click on that option. You can see the details of the Triple Crown Award there. So I had a very quick overview of how you complete Toastmasters Pathways Learning Experience module in this talk. And we also looked into some potential gotchas, and I will turn it over to our Toastmaster today, Patty.
Let's go back to the panel moderator, Carol.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Patty, and thank you, JR, for that wonderful speech. And the one thing I would like to follow up there is JR showed us how to complete things in pathways. Now it's up to us to go and actually complete them. That's something that I am guilty of, giving my speech and not going through the last few steps there to make sure that I get credit for it. So we know what I'll be doing later today. All right. I see there's a couple questions in the chat here. So Sandy, I think you have some questions. Do you like to ask JR?
Yes. Thank you very much, JR. It was very, very informative. So I had a question on the evaluations. And it was the evaluation that was between the before and the after evaluation, where you saw the numbers 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 in,
Excellent. Yeah.
In maroon.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the evaluation that when you get the form back from your evaluator that you put what they put on there? Or what do you do with the form that you get back from, and if you get back a form from your reviewer?
That's a great question.
Thank you.
So the assessments I showed when I was giving my talk, that is self-assessment. So you assess yourself in the beginning, before and after. And the evaluation form you're getting from your official evaluator needs to go to another part of Pathways. So there is a place where you can upload the evaluation form. However, I don't think it's mandatory. I mean, you can upload it for your record. But
Okay, I was gonna say, what if you don't get one?
what if you don't have one?
Yeah, like with Zoom, I know it was hard to physically give them
I see.
the paper,
Yeah.
and then
Like I said,
it's not mandatory.
it's not mandatory. So yeah, it's only for your record.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. So as long as you get your evaluation done during the meeting and yeah, it's recorded somehow one way or another, I think that's fine. I mean, there's no obligation for you to actually upload the evaluation form itself. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Mhm.
And the VPE gets notified automatically. We don't have to tell the VPE that, hey, there's something out there that we finished. You have to look for an email or whatever.
Yeah, that's another great question. So I also served as the VP of Education for our club, home club. And sometimes what happens is it's in the queue in the system. And I don't know, maybe it's now different, but I wasn't getting an email whether you got your project completed or I guess level completed in this case. So just to be prudent, I would always send a quick email to your VP of Education and say, I just completed my level. Please make sure, it is actually processed. That's what I do at least. But I mean, as you are getting your email, the VP of Education should be getting her or his email too.
Okay.
And these days, I mean, who knows, the email may end up in the spam box or something like that. So yeah, I think it's always nice to remind them.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, and then here. Okay, and Patty, do you want to just make your comment there that you put in the chat so everybody can hear you?
Sure. Sandy, what I do as an evaluator is I take a photo of my evaluation and I email it or text it to the speaker.
Okay.
That's the quickest way I've found to get it to them. And you can ask your evaluator to do the same for you.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, that's a great idea, Patty. I never thought of that because it is kind of a pain. You save it somewhere and then, find what folder it's in and attach it to an email. And then that person, you can't save them in Pathways. It just is a repository. It's a place you can store things, but you can also store them on your own computer if you like. Okay. And also, Sandy, you were talking about the numbers there, the ratings you give yourself. Also on the evaluations, there's something that looks very similar, but that's what your evaluator does. You're evaluating yourself when you're going through the Pathways, each module. And a funny story there, I was doing a project a few weeks ago and I rated myself at the beginning and I went through and I did the project and I did the speech. And then I was somehow got on the wrong screen and I thought I hadn't done the first evaluation. So I did that and gave myself some, reasonably low scores because I had a lot of areas to improve it. I thought, well, it turned out I wasn't paying attention and I was on the after screen. So it looked like I didn't make any progress. And I know I did, but nobody's checking up on us. This is for our own benefit here. Okay. Well, now we'll move on to our next speaker, Fred Warnbrock. And Fred is going to talk today about the Pathways approval process. Are you stuck on how educational awards are approved in Toastmasters? And this session is for you. Even if you know how to approve awards, get ready for a refresher and jump in with your tips and ideas. Let's learn together as Distinguished Toastmaster Fred walks us through the process. Please help me welcome Toastmaster Fred Vornbrock, the Pathways Approval Process.
Thank you, Madam Panel Chairwoman and fellow Toastmasters, and especially our guests. Woo-hoo. Thank you all for joining. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on this afternoon, so we appreciate you taking the time to be with us. I'm especially fighting the beautiful weather. Man, I want to go out there and do some Toastmaster stuff outside or something. I don't know. Hey, I've got some great things lined up for you this afternoon. There's 3 parts to this presentation. I'm going to ask that you all jump in with your questions so we don't lose the question. So we're going to talk about the actual approval process. I also want to talk to you a little bit about what JR set up in tracking members' progress in the sense of looking at the dashboard. Now, Joe following me is going to get into a lot of reports. I just want to whet your appetite for what he's going to talk about. And then I want to show you the Department of Redundancy departments that TI has on tutorials, because there's not 1, there's not 2, but there are 3 sets of tutorials on pathways. And well, we'll just give you a quick overview on how those work. So put on your seatbelts, fasten bag, get your Dr. Pepper, and let's go. Woo-hoo. So how does this work? Well, as we just had the question here from Sandy, we, the VPEs, the Vice President of Education, VPE, Vice President of Education, we get an email every time one of our members has completed a level. Now, let me do a real quick sidebar and say, you have got to opt in. And Patty, I am getting thirsty looking at that slide, man. You've got to opt in on Toastmasters to get emails. If you're not opting in, the VPE may or may not get it. So if you're the VPE or any club officer, you've got to opt in. And you don't get a lot of emails from Toastmasters. I see maybe 1 or 2 a month. So definitely opt in. But as the VP Education, you do get an email notification saying that somebody has completed. In this case, it was Allison Laird. Allison is a member of the Bettis Club. She's also a member of the McKeesport, and she completed her level 1 engaging humor. You can log in from the link on that, or you can go to the actual website. Now, another important thing is this isn't just for the Vice President of Education, because as the VPEs, as you all know, we cannot approve our own awards. And that's why we have the club president and the club secretary who can come in and approve ours or anyone else's. So this training is relevant to us as the VPEs, but it's also important for club presidents and club secretaries. We're called the base camp manager. I didn't know I was in the Army. Well, when we log into the website here, we want to go to toastmasters.org and click on pathways. And when we bring up the page, this is what we see. Now, it's going to be very important, extremely important for us to click the right club, because when you approve an award, whatever club you've got selected here, they're the ones that are going to get it. So let's be real careful about that. Let's also then log in as Basecamp Manager at the very bottom. And when we bring up that, when we click on that, it brings up this screen. The one we're interested in right now is, how do we approve awards? Well, we click on pending requests. And when we do that, if there is one in the email box, as there is here from Allison, it flags her name, it shows her club, and if she's a club officer. Then in the middle of the page, it tells us, well, what level and what is the path? Remember that in Toastmasters, we have 11 different paths. Many of us are working simultaneously on different paths. I've completed one path. I'm working on 3 other paths. I need to do 2 speeches to finish one, need 3 speeches to finish the third, and I'm already like speech 4 or 5 in my 4th path. So we've got to help out and make sure when we're approving these that we're approving the right one, and again, that it goes to the right club. And then on the far right side of the screen, we have a green and a red. Now, I know Allison, because she's in our club, I know that she has been working on her level 1, so there's no question in my mind. Now, I could click on details and get a report if I wanted to, but I know she's good to go. So at that point, I click the green button, And now it brings up this little box for me, the VPE, to send some comments. So let's write some nice words like, atta girl, atta boy, congratulations, well done, whatever you feel like writing. Hit the submit. And now what happens is you'll go back to this screen, and guess what? It's blank. What? What happened to that? Well, you approved it. So once you approved it, well, guess what? It's empty. So that means, good job, Fred. You did your job. Now you can have a Dr. Pepper. Okay. Whew. Well, but you're not quite finished yet. Not quite. That's what you did as the Babe Camp manager. Now you got to go to the Club Central. And this is very easy. It's just a matter of going to the Toastmasters website, clicking on Leadership Central, as you see there. It gives you a drop-down menu. Then we click on Club Central. When we do that, now Club Central website comes up. But we've got to select the right club. Many of us are members of various clubs, and we're officers in various clubs. As you can see here, hey, I was an officer in 3 clubs. So I got to make sure I'm picking the right club. I don't know about you, but I don't need help looking stupid. I do a pretty good job. I don't want to call Toastmasters and say, hey, I had to take that pass the dummy test and I flunked because I picked the wrong club. Because, once you pick the club, you can't undo it. So if you give it to the Bettis Corporation or Pingers or Erie or Bayview, they're going to love you for it. Toastmasters International may not, because now they got to fix your mess. And how many clubs do we have? 15,800. My gosh, how many of these do we have to do? So anyway, just a strong pitch to pick the right club. When we bring up Club Central, again, we have another chance to confirm that we're at the right club. Now we want to click on Submit Education Awards. This is, again, very easy. When you do that, well, who's the person that we're working on? Well, in this case, it was Allison. So when we select Allison, then it says, well, what program she's working on? Well, she was doing a level 1 for engaging humor, as we see at the bottom. Okay, that's easy enough. Then we have over on the right-hand side, review award submission. You can actually look at the amount of time a person spent on a module to make sure they're not pencil whipping it. And then if you're satisfied they've done everything, you just have to go to this screen. It just confirms what you're doing, who the person is. Then you hit the Submit Award in the lower right-hand corner. And that, ladies and gentlemen, congratulations. Woo-hoo! You did it. Now, does anybody have any questions on this part before we jump into the next part? Carol Snyder, can you give me the Jeopardy tune, please, while we're waiting for the response? Okay. Hearing no questions.
I have a question, Fred.
Please.
So that was from the approver's standpoint?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so were there 2 approvals the approver needed to do?
Yes, there is the Base Camp manager level. That's where
Okay.
you had the green check or the red X.
Mm-hmm.
Then we got to go into TI website under Club Central.
All right.
We need to, from Club Central, hit the Submit Education Awards.
All right. Thank you.
And that just brings up the member's name
Mhm.
and the award and so forth and so forth. It's a fairly straightforward process, but initially VPE, oh, there's 2 parts to that. Yeah, that's why Fred's still waiting for his approval, because you only did 1 part. Oops. Easy enough to fix.
Thank you, Fred.
After you do that, then you get a little education award submitted dialog box, and you now have a chance to submit another award. We do have some clubs that have 30, 35 members. So as a VPE, you might have more than 1 education award that's pending.
I have a question.
Please.
It says, what would you like to do next? It doesn't have Disney World there as an option.
Well, if you put another quarter in, maybe it'll work. But make sure it's a US quarter, not a Canadian one. Okay, good. Whew. But you do get confirmation emails. Now notice up here in the left-hand corner, there's one to Allison. So she gets confirmation that it's been approved. There's also one to me. And it just says, this is to confirm your level 1 was processed. Sweet. Then she would actually get, and I don't have access to her email, so I had to show you one of mine. But when each of us completes a module, a level, we'll get an email like this saying your request for level 3 dynamic leadership was approved last fall, blah, 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 blah. So that's how the notification process works. Very simple, very straightforward.
And
Now,
Fred,
please.
I would assume you have to have the receive emails on to get that as well.
Yes, which goes back to my point of we want to opt in for emails, and we'd be glad to show you that after the fact here if we need to do that, or you can talk to one of your club officers about how to do that, particularly for the newer folks. You did get an email when you first signed in on Toastmasters, and it says, would you please opt in? Remember that Toastmasters International is an international organization. We are now, this is exciting news. We are now up to 147 countries. And some countries require, like European Union, you just can't send out all these emails. You have to get permission from them. So Toastmasters sends out an email, says, please, 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 please opt in during the next 30 days, or you won't get any more emails from them. So that's why we just really encourage, in addition to that, you can upload the website with your speech titles and all those things. So good reason, good question, Mike. Thank you for it. If we look at piggybacking on what JR talked about, we do have this thing called distinguished clubs. We have in Toastmasters on the website this thing called a dashboard. So if you look in the upper left-hand corner, it says dashboards.toastmasters.org. And this is called a dashboard. It has the information from all 123 districts. Did you know there are that many districts in Toastmasters? Wow. The Toastmasters is 14 regions, 123 districts, 15,800 plus clubs, and 370,000 members worldwide. And they have an incredible engine behind this website that allows us to look at analytics, including how well people are doing. What I've shown here is I just took a snapshot before the meeting started of our dashboard for District 13. This is only a portion of it, just enough to get the discussion started. I want to call to your attention that the Bettis Club has met 2 of their educational goals. We see those to the right of the red circle where I'm circling with my mouse. If we jump down to area 2, and for our new members or newer members, we have 4 or 5 clubs in an area. 4 or 5 clubs have become a division. So that's how this is divided. This is Division A, areas 1 and 3. There's more areas, but I'm just showing you a few. Notice that in area 2, only 1 club out of 4 has any educational awards. And if we look at area 3, again, only 1 club. Now, you know, we've been, and for our benefit of our new members, Toastmaster year starts in July. So we've been at it now for about 2.5 months. These numbers seem a little low, but here's the takeaway, VPEs, club presidents, club officers. Come March, if we look at this dashboard and we see clubs that have 2 or 1 or 0, and we've been doing this for 9-10 months, what? Something is wrong. And one of the clubs that I coach, in March, there were 0 educational awards. How can that possibly be? They've been going now for 8.5, 9 months. How could they possibly not have 1 educational award? It's because VPEs didn't know how to do what they were doing. That's why we're going through this presentation. They didn't realize, or in the case as JR did, some of the members didn't realize, well, you have to take that self-assessment twice, hit the submit, and it's only when you see congratulations that the database gets updated, and that's what triggers the whole award process. So just want to really emphasize, as club officers, particularly as presidents and VPEs, we need to be looking at this once a month or so just to say, hey, is this tracking? I'm going to the meetings. Everybody's giving speeches. The speeches are in pathways. How come we're not seeing more progress? Great question that we got to follow up on. Whoa. One other I want to point out to you is that in this incredible database, if we click on club over on the left-hand side, we see it says district. Actually, we want to click on the club ones. We have in the middle of the screen, it says update reports for district. As JR showed, we have educational achievements. When you submit an award, you should be looking at this, and it brings it up by club number. And this list is way too long. It would take slide after slide to show all of you. But I want to show that we're Club 902. In the bottom left-hand corner, there's a red circle. In the bottom of, or top of there, it shows District 13. In the bottom, we show JR with the Achievers Club. So JR has actually completed his level 3 for engaging humor. Well done, JR. Again, as individuals, we want to go in and make sure that our updates have been updated. Right now, I've got a level 3 that's in Nana land. I got the email from Toastmasters saying it was approved. I got a couple of other items saying when I go into the actual curriculum, it shows 100%, but it hasn't shown up on this. What? And when I go look at the other report, it's not there. Where is it? I don't know. I don't know. Inquiry minds want to know. I'm going to finish my level 4 this week. I'm hoping that that'll jump something and it'll pop out and I'll have my level 3 and level 4. But this is a reason why, as club officers and as vice president of education, we want to make sure that we see these items. And if they're not, we need to be asking what's going on. JR also mentioned about Triple Crown. We now have 3 people, including Sue Ellis. She has got 9 levels done in 2.5 months. Go, Sue, go. And if we were to go back to that dashboard where we showed, let me just go back and show it to you here instead of talking about it. Her club or her clubs, because she's a member of more than one club, they would show 1, 2, or 3 or whatever. I mean, she's got a lot of awards. So again, it's just a way for us as club officers to make sure, hey, is the system working? Are people doing it? Are they getting credit? If not, we need to dig down and find out what is really going on and what the problem is. Any questions about that before we finish the last section, which are on tutorials? Carol, sing to me the Jeopardy theme song.
I have a question, Fred.
Go ahead, Carol.
Other people have asked me many times. Why, oh, why does Pathways not automatically update Club Central? Do you have an answer? Does anybody have an answer for that?
Not I, said the cat.
I have an answer for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have an answer. I'll give you the
Go ahead, Kara.
the kindest answer. The kindest answer is that they're 2 separate
Correct.
programs, and they have not figured out how to connect the 2. The Toastmasters one is very old. They're planning to upgrade it in a few short years. They've been working on it for a while, and I think they don't want to put the effort into trying to get them to automatically connect when they're working on building a new one. So is that a satisfactory answer?
Yes, yes. The Club Central came first, and then they bought Pathways. They bought a product from Cornerstone On Demand that,
Don't go there, Carol. Don't go there.
okay, it's called Pathways, and they're 2 separate systems. And
That's right.
theoretically, you can write an interface between them, but I know from my next cubicle mate at work was somebody that worked on the Cornerstone On Demand system. So let me just say that every time something changed in one system, you had to tweak your interface to properly feed the other system and then feed the data back. So yes, theoretically it is possible, but it is a lot of work and it is ongoing work. So yeah, you don't want to put a lot of money into something that you're going to have to just keep rewriting and rewriting. That's
But
my,
here's something
Or
that we
ITV.
can all do. Thank you for that, Carol. Thank you for that, Patty. Here's something we can all do. After the meeting's over, please just take 2 minutes and find an extra cable that you have somewhere in your house and send it to TI and ask them to connect the 2 databases using this cable that you supply.
Yeah.
It'll be a great feeling. You're going to clear out some junk in your house, and TI is going to go like, what?
What is going on?
What is going on? Those people in Pennsylvania are crazy. Let's take a few moments and look at some tutorials just real quickly here. If you go to toastmasters.org and then go into the Pathways ribbon, there's a pull down menu and it says go to Basecamp. We're all familiar with this. It's how we get into our curriculum. It brings up this page that we've talked about before. In this case, we're going to go to the Basecamp. And when we do that, we saw this before with JR, we want to look at tutorials and the Basecamp video. And when we bring up either one of them, it brings this wonderful site that has 100+ resources because there are that many tutorials. We want to select the one that says Basecamp Manager. They're all high quality. They're very short, typically 2-3 minutes, maybe 4. They're well done. If you have not had a chance, you might even want to watch the YouTube video. And it gives you just a real quick overview of the program and it gets you back to this site.
Fred,
Please.
when you're in that where you just have the circle now, does that also have like for members or so some of our newer people here can go in and look at tutorials?
Yes, over here where I'm trying to circle with my mouse,
Uh-huh.
it has tutorial, evaluation, project, resource, everything you've got is right here. And that's why it says here in the middle of the screen, there's 114. It's not 114 for Basecamp, there's 114 for all of the tutorials. Good question. They're high quality, well done, easy to navigate, easy to find. In addition to that, if we log in as the Basecamp manager, and this is limited to the VPEs, club presidents, and club secretary, only 3 of us have that privilege. There's also managerial tutorials. I don't know if any of you have ever looked at these, but there are about 9 or 10 of these. We're going to circle the level completion over in the upper right-hand corner. When we click on that, it gives us 3 different tutorials. You just have to pick the topic you want. Again, they're typically 2-3 minutes, 4 minutes. Well done, a little different than some of the other stuff. Here is an example. And there is a menu that I kind of cut off with the screen capture, but you can pick whatever the topic is within level completion. So there are lots of resources. If that wasn't enough, woohoo, for those of you who are high C on the disk model and you love data, you can also try the Navigator. And you know what? There's 2 ways to get to the Navigator. You could try the Navigator from Pathways, or you could go back to the Pathways and click on the Navigator. Either way, it brings up this Toastmasters Navigator. And this is a wonderful resource for Barbara, Sandy, anybody else who may be new or not so new to Toastmasters on anything you want to know about Toastmasters. In this case, if we jump down to the middle of the page, we have this Pathways Learning Experience program. And it brings up this page. And again, you just have to pick the topic. Which one do you want to do? So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. There's no reason not to know what's going on with Pathways, at least in terms of tutorials and a few other things. Are there any other questions? I'm way over time, but since I'm over time, let's take some more time. Any other questions before we bring up Joe?
I have one more, Fred.
Please.
When you're in a multiple club and you're at the Pathways page and you're selecting the club, does that only matter when you are completing a level as opposed to completing a project?
It's as you suggest, it's really completing the level so that it gets awarded in the right place.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, great question.
So as I'm going through a level, I can do speeches in both clubs, but then I just award it to whichever club I want to at the end of the year or whenever I complete it.
And the VPE's got to be in concert with, hey, do you want to put it in the Greensburg Club? Do you want to put it in Achievers? Do you want to put it in another club? Trust me, I have screwed up and not put it in the right club. So because of my vain pride, I didn't call TI. I just called the other club. Hey, congratulations. I love you so much. I just gave you 2 educational awards. Oh, Fred, you're our hero. No, I'm just a local dummy, but hey, we'll take the hero. So, hey, with that, thank you so much. You all are a great audience. Let's go back to our panel director, panel chair, Carol.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Fred. That was very informative. And I have to say from experience, the first 3 or 4 times I had to approve a level in Pathways, I went and used that manager tutorial because I kept forgetting, like, how exactly do I do this? So once you do it a few times, you remember it. But at first, it can be a little bit challenging. Our next speaker is Joe Formansky, and he'll be reviewing the reports and the tracking information in Pathways that can be used by club officers. So please help me welcome Joe Formansky with his speech, patiently explaining Pathways reports.
Thank you very much, Carol. Patience is the virtue that you need when you're trying to manage as a VPE or one of the officers in Pathways. And that's why I say patiently waiting, because I'm going to show you today, we'll do some live stuff and we'll do some, I already have packaged reports pulled out because I don't think we have enough time for the meeting to run for some of the time that it takes to some of these reports to come up. With that, I'll share my screen and I'll be bopping around my screen to several different things as we go through this. All right, now can you see the Toastmaster International screen, everyone? Yes, all right, thank you. Very good. Now, Toastmasters International, I'm already logged in here. You can see I'm logged in and understand today we're talking about 2 parts of Pathways, the individual as a user and the management of it, which are the officers of the club. And I'll talk first about the officers of the club part of it, and then I'll go, once I'm done with the report part of this, I'll talk about other resources, and we'll have Fred and Jung Ho also chime in on those as we show you the resources that are available to everyone in all clubs. You've already seen some of them. We'll show you some more. So as a Pathways, again, it's an external third-party application that runs separately from TI, and I understand why they don't integrate them together. It's not an easy thing to do, but you go into Pathways, and in Pathways, you click on here from the main screen, and we'll go into Basecamp Manager. I think we've seen this before, and when we come in here, we have the 3 different things. We're going to choose the club you want to be in. And actually for today, I'm going to choose the other club. I'm in Midday, and I'm going to log in as their Basecamp Manager because I'm a VPE in that club. And it comes up, you've seen this screen before from Fred and JR has shown you this, showing you different things. Today, I want to go in and look at some of the reports that are important for people who are managing Pathways. Up here at the top, we see at the reports drop down, we see standard reports, custom reports, and dashboards. I'll first look at dashboards because they give you some of the best information about the progress of your people in your clubs. And that's important. As VP of E, you want to know what people are doing. As VP of E, I try to set goals for people at the beginning of the year, and then I track them, and I go into these dashboards to see how they're doing if I miss a meeting or something like that. And I can see that. I can see the entire history of that person through there. And so I'll click on the dashboards, and as you can see, this already has preloaded one. How about that? Because I was in here yesterday, I guess, it still has my stuff preloaded into Pathways. And what you have to do when you come in, you can see I clicked on individual progress. It has the screen up here at the top, but what it's showing you is it's refreshing. It's called refreshing. And you can see I clicked on that 15, 20 seconds ago, and we get a nice spinning thing here still as we wait. And you will wait. And this is the part about being patient, because many people say, oh, I don't have any progress, and they go away. And then a few minutes later, voila, you have progress. And it takes time. Today is pretty fast because it's a weekend. If you come in here during the week, I was doing some stuff yesterday, and one of them took 4 minutes to come up and refresh. And it comes up, and you can see for each of the different levels in Pathways what the progress is by individual. And I'm in the individual progress here. So you can see the individuals of the club that are in Midday. who and what has worked on level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4, and of course level 5. Only one person there in our club in level 3 or in level 4 and 5. You can see their information there. The other thing, and I'll go down to level 2 because it's a little bit less people in it. There's a drop down little arrow here, these little hints, these little arrows in the corner. You have an option one up here to refresh. I'm not going to refresh because that will take us out for another few minutes. Or over here, importantly, in this level, you can click on here and you can view details, or you can export the information to an Excel chart, which is actually what I do, because there's so much information at times that you want to reflect upon it and go do other things too. And so I'll show you both what it looks like. First, we'll click on details. You can see it brings up a whole nother screen. Do y'all see the other screen pop up for you? Someone say yes. Hopefully you see the other
Yes.
screen. Thank you.
Yes, we're all on mute.
Yes.
Okay. I'm trying to keep the screen open because full screen, because the little things are sometimes over where the Zoom would be. So you see those bars again, the people's progress and how many training titles they've completed. You can see, part of 1, 3. This person here, Tom Harper, Superman. He's a member of our Achievers Club, but he's coming back from a 3-week vacation right now, and he achieved 5 already projects at level 2. Then if you go down, you can see the details about every person in the club who's done that level or even started it. And you can see all the different people. You can see Joe Fermansky, this guy here, he's in 3 different paths: engaging humor, presentation mastery, and visionary communication. And they're in progress. All 3 of them are in progress at this level. And you can go down and see other people have completed different things with those different projects that they have going on. Let's look at Jim down here. He's in innovative planning, and he has done several different projects here. And they're completed. He completed mentoring, he completed connecting with his audience, and he completed understanding his leadership style. And you can see another one here, Jean-Pierre is completed his understanding leadership style, and he's working on connecting with his audience, in progress right now. So there's a lot of detail that you can get with this, and this is a separate window by itself. We'll go back to the first one. Now, the other thing you can do is you can export it to an Excel file. Excel, Microsoft product. If you don't have it, you can get a free viewer for your PC to view it, but you won't be able to edit it. And what I'm going to do is I prepared these yesterday to make things go faster in case things weren't quick today. And so this one is level, this is the individual one, which we just looked at. Level 3, here's level 2, which we just looked at. People in progress. It didn't update that. Give it a time. But it shows you all the detail, and this is level 1 now for the people in my club. And you can see all the detail of what they've done in every path. So I've completed a couple of different ones. Presentation mastery. I completed that, and in May, I think that was the one Patty made me do, if I remember correctly, to get the point for our club here. And that one I'm doing actually in Achievers Club, whereas the other one I'm doing in Midday Club. Doesn't break it down. You will see
you
both.
don't see the club, but I see it's got basically the history as dates as old as 2018. So
yeah. Oh, you'll have history for everything because, for example, Tatiana isn't in our club anymore for several years, but it's just sitting there. Her icebreaker for this one is just sitting there in progress. And then we have a brand new member, Erica, just joined our club recently. She's going to be doing dynamic leadership. She just started into she had done her icebreaker, and she's in the evaluation and feedback projects right now with that. But you can look at the different levels that we have and see the detail at the different levels again for the individual. Now, I'm going to bring up another one. There are other different reports that you can get out. You can look at level completion, path progress, path type, and then recently selected paths and external training. First of all, external training, I don't know anyone's done external training that ties into pathways, but there is a way to do this, and that's where you would track. You would see a report on it if you get credit. Recently selected paths, these are for people just in the last 30 or 60 days, just selected a new path. Path type is real simple. You're either online or you're doing paper. Now, some people prefer to do paper, some don't. And if you want to look at that, let me see, that one pulls up. Shows up, come on. There, path delivery type. Everyone in my club is doing online. All the people who have done stuff, everyone from the beginning of time in our club since Pathway started, all chose to do online. The other method would be paper. So that's what that one does. Path progress and level completion. I'll pull up the screens from one of those. Path progress. This is another one that's important. Level completion is not, I use these two, the individual and the path progress. So you can see by the different learning paths, how much has been completed. And then you scroll down and it tells you by learning path, who's working on which path and what they're doing. It's just a different way of cutting the information and showing you how much they're doing and where they're at within it, whether they've completed the path or not. It doesn't go into the explicit detail that the individual one does. It just says that they are in progress. And no one in my club has unfortunately completed it, the entire path yet. And so that's why they're all in progress over here. Go back there. There we go. So these are the different, again, the different things you can get in this type of reporting. And if I've got these preloaded, so they are already there. But trust me, when you bring these up, if you have to refresh, it can take minutes. It can take a long time if you want. Now, those were the dashboards, and the two that, again, I use mostly the individual progress one. For the most part, that's what I use almost all the time to look at what people are doing individually. Now, there's another couple, you can see it's refreshing again here because I clicked on individual progress and it's kind of go from one path to the other. Takes a while. In any case, I'm going to go over here back to the reports, drop down instead of dashboards. I'm going to click on standard reports, and hopefully this won't wait for this one to complete. Yeah, it's waiting. It's waiting for that. See those little initials there, CSOD. Is that Cornerstone on? To really
Hey, Joe, as it's waiting, can I ask a quick question?
Surely.
So when you said that all of your members were online, and I'm wondering, members don't have a choice of doing paper anymore, right?
There are some things that I think can be done on paper. I'm not sure, but
there are a few paths that you
Right.
can choose paper, and then you have to pay an extra fee to be able to do that.
All right.
Okay.
All right. So I clicked on reports, and the standard report, I think you already saw before, Fred used the pending requests to see if anyone has completed a path, but the VPE has not approved it yet in Pathways. And then the other ones that we can look at are training status and training progress pie charts. So we'll go to training status summary, pull it down. Now you can put in the dates to and from, or you can select this year. Let's select last year for my club, because I know I haven't done it a lot this year. And then click on search, and it pulls up. This is a little bit quicker than the other reports, much faster than the dashboard. You can see the progress of people, and it shows the yellow's registered, excuse me, orange is registered, yellow's in progress, and green is completed, and how many projects they've done. And you can see the different people. Clint's our superstar guy here too, with this. And then you can scroll down and see what they've done in terms of completed or what they're doing in progress down below. I look at this every once in a while, but it's mostly the other report that I look at. Now, the other standard report is a different way of looking at things. Come on. Is the pie chart. Similarly, Let's select last year to look at last year and search. And you can see the pie chart. And this shows you, again, the registered, in progress, and completed, and the people and what they're doing. You can also, if you want, go and look at the little thing over here on the edge, the detail, view detail. Let's see what's good to look at here. And this is a detail for me and where I'm at. And it tells you every single step. This is beneficial, the detail. Every single step that I've gone through. So you can see I completed level 1 here, and I'm in level 2, and the first thing I am completed. But I've already looked at I've looked at these kind of things, but I haven't done them yet. They're not activated. And I think no, it's not on this one. It's in another path that I went ahead and looked at one in the future. And again, over here, you can drive down into the detail even further. Specifically for me, what have I done? How much time? There, I've spent 29 minutes on this already. And you can even look at even super detail on what I specifically have done in this project, if you want to go down there. So there's a lot of detail that you can look at with these things, with the reports. And now it's an important thing from a management. If someone's getting stuck and they don't know where they're at, this is where you can find out where they're at. And if you ever really get stuck, Toastmaster International has an email address just for fixing Pathways problems. And I find that's the best way, because I don't have all day to sit on a phone and wait for someone, because that Pathways person's kind of busy. And so there's an email out there for you to go. If you go to Toastmasters and contact us, it'll drop down and give you all the different addresses, the people who can help you, and you go with that. And so that was really the Pathways part here. Now, I want to go back up. Are there any questions on any of these things I've gone through here? Now, one of the things with Pathways is once you're in Pathways, you're in a different system. So I want to go back to Toastmasters International. And I have a fast way to get that, because I go here enough, if I can find the button. There it is. And I'll go back to toastmasters.org. The main one, we're back, and I'm still logged in, hanging out there. Other things, as Fred has told you, there are tutorials for everything and other resources that are also out there. One resource that I'm going to pull up, and this is actually in the chat if you want to download it. This is a Pathways reference guide that I found. It's actually about 1.5 years, 2 years old. Excuse me. But it goes through everything about Pathways, what you have to do to accomplish the end goals, what are the core competencies if you want to learn them and work more in one area than another. What do these things mean? The core competencies: public speaking, interpersonal speaking, strategic leadership, management, and confidence, how those work out, all the different paths. And then it talks about mastering. This is basically how you go through a given path. This shows you level 1 basically of this getting started, the icebreaker, the evaluation, and a research project. And just a hint, we'll talk about how this is going to change here shortly. But then you submit, you get on, and you go through that. And that's how you get started and go through that first level. Distinguished Toastmaster, if you want to focus on that as a long-term goal, and Pathways tells you what you have to complete, both in education, leadership, and district leadership, and club extension, so you can get to be a DTM. And then there's tremendous amount, and this is, as you can see, I'm scrolling through, there's lots and lots of detail on every single kind of project and where you'll find them as requirements or as options in each of the different paths. And I'm not going to go in through all these things, but they're all out there for you. You can see the electives and the E's, but this is out there. This document is in the chat that we put out there for you today. It should be way at the beginning. If you scroll back up and chat, I think Fred put one Pathways, Path the Project, and then he put in, I think it's this Pathways Companion Guide. I believe that's the one I put out there because
I don't see anything.
I don't see it.
If they logged in after you had already put it in, it won't be in their chat.
I just put it back in.
thank you, Fred. See, Fred is a hero. So let me go over here, just some resources. We did the international, but District 13 has a lot of resources that are out there for you too, for Pathways. If you come into District 13, you go under Education, you click on Pathways, you can see it talks about, and it has the video about Welcome to Pathways. You should probably look at that when you're getting started. Goes through these things. One of the important things that helped me when I first got into Pathways, and he's been out here since the beginning of Pathways. Katina Hunter had done a number of videos on how to use Pathways and things to do in Pathways. And these are YouTube videos, step by step, that you can do at your own pace, that show you how to do almost everything in Pathways. So that I've even taken some of these and done them with a person because they couldn't do YouTube on their device, and I did it with them and went through them. And they're very, very detailed videos for you that you can use to do Pathways. And they're right off of our District 13 site. All right, let me get that bar off of there. Anyway, and so those are, it's a very important resource for you. I believe in especially if you're just getting started. There is so much information here and at the international site that you do. Now, we're always learning, and someone asked at the very beginning, I think Patty, who knows everything about Pathways? And of course, I think Fred was trying to hold his hand down, but I don't know anyone who knows everything about Pathways. But one thing I learned from Fred just the other day, and Fred, you can explain this. I'm in the Toastmasters International site. I went under Pathways for the dropdown. There's a thing called Pathways Updates. And this is what they're planning to do and the changes that they've made in the past to Pathways. And I got real excited when I actually read this. Because I never clicked on it. I never thought about it. And I looked at this in Q4 of this year. They're going to change level 1 projects. 2 new projects are going to be added. In addition to the icebreaker and evaluation, they're going to pull out the research project. It's going to be moved to level 3. And they're going to put in some other basic projects for vocal variety and body language, which used to be old Toastmasters traditional method things you'd learn in your first couple speeches, but they're going to put them back into Pathways. These used to be options at higher levels in Pathways as electives. Now they're going to put them into the requirements in level 1, which is exciting. And Fred or Jung Ho, at this point, you want to say any more about this? Hello?
Yeah, I'll just say that for not only that they're going to be adding a change to level 1, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, the research project's fun, but it should be an elective. Vocal variety should have been a foundation. So they're fixing that oversight. And next spring, next summer, they're going to add some more paths. So for those of us who are working on our 3rd DTM or whatever, and we've been through this stuff already, they're going to give us some fresh paths, and that's going to be very exciting. So we'll learn more about that sometime next spring, next summer, whenever they roll it out.
And you can, again, you can see they have past updates. They're out there and all the things planned. October, I think they just had this down, or no, it's still September. This is when they're planning a Pathways outage, and then they're going to add some additional language to a couple of the navigators for additional support and translations. So this is just one of the things that's out there for you. But if you go on to these 2 websites, our District 13 and Toastmasters International, tremendous amount of information about Pathways. And even if you're trying to entice a new member in and you're at the main site, what you want to learn more, There's so much up here for you to learn on this website. It's unbelievable. And even as a non-member, you can come in here and just learn more about Pathways. And it shows you everything. It's video here and welcome to Pathways. Here's the different projects you can, or paths, you can click on them and it'll talk a little bit more about one. You can learn what is Pathways, how to log into Basecamp, or even you don't have to be a member. You can see what an icebreaker project is about and how Pathways works with an icebreaker. So there's a tremendous amount of things that are out there for you. And you saw at the bottom there, Pathways frequently asked questions and answers. So those are all things that are out there for you and for your pleasure. And so I'm going to stop sharing here. I think I had enough on that one, and drop it back to Carol, our coordinator. And I think we're really to the Q&A section, if I'm correct. So.
Thank you, Joe. Yes, well, today, just in summary, we had JR talk to us about, as individual users of Pathways, what we needed to do to be able to get our projects approved. And then Fred talked to us about how people that are Basecamp approvers can go into Pathways and what they need to do there. And then Joe shared a lot of information with us about how to get reports out of Pathways, how to see where your club members are progressing in their paths. And one thing I really learned there, Joe, was scroll down and you can see information presented a different way, more as rows and columns as opposed to bars. So that was very, very helpful. Are there any more questions for any of our panelists today?
I have a question, Barbara. You said you make sure you opt in. How do you know if you opted in? I got an email to join this session today. Does that mean I'm opted into the emails from Toastmaster International?
No.
Okay.
No, that I don't want to say how I got that email list, but when you log into at the Toastmasters International site, once you log in, you see your name up here, like it says, welcome, Joe.
Right.
I'm not sharing my screen, am I? How about that? That's pretty silly. Let me share my screen. Okay. All right. You can see my Toastmaster International site now. Yeah, hopefully.
Yes. Mhm.
All right. They can see my screen. I logged in already. It says, welcome, Joseph.
Right.
And so it's clicking and it pulls up your profile. And this is Joe Formansky, and it shows you what I'm in. Come on, get rid of that down here. And if you come in here, this tells you all about your history and everything like that, how long you've been a member. I believe under this privacy and consent is where you can click on email, mail, third party phone, all those things like that. And trust me, I from the stolen list that I had, there's a lot of people who are opted out because it's like a natural thing to protect your privacy.
Right. Yes.
But they don't know that stops Toastmaster International from sending you emails. So again, this isn't the simplest way to find things, but there is a member profile out for you with everything about whatever thing you've ever done in Toastmasters. And you can see I started in 2011, 10 years ago. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Do it. Okay, thank you.
Patty?
A follow-on comment. Could you go back to the consent page?
Sure.
And then scroll to the bottom. Do you see where it says your name on public reports? If you don't put your name, if you don't have a yes there, when the district goes to do awards, we do not have your name.
Okay.
So when we go to announce awards, it's member number, and that's how we give the announcements because we don't have your name.
And
so we should say yes to everything.
Say yes to everything. I mean, they're not going to call you. They've never called me. I've had yes to everything. I don't get calls from them. They don't sell your information.
Yeah.
Has anybody ever had an issue with a yes on any of these things?
No.
Just I have where I get stuff for Toastmasters International and I have my name on the reports, but I don't want a third party or phone calls. So you don't have to put all yes or all no. You can select
Right.
whatever makes sense to you.
Yeah, and the third party is only if you're buying from the store. There's a third party who actually fulfills those orders, and that's so they can contact you directly. Otherwise, it'll just appear. But if you want tracking and things like that, you need to be working with the third party. So it's up to you. This is one of the few things I've gone through with my club. About once a year, I go through this because new members and some of the old members are not in, and they say, "Oh, I didn't know that," and it's just there under your profile.
Okay, thank you.
Oh yeah. Another question? Any other questions?
Anybody else have any more questions here? Okay, well, I would like to thank my panelists today. It was really a privilege and an honor to work with you. There was a lot of great information shared here, and I appreciate the handouts. I particularly, the Pathways Companion Guide will help me guide some of my members because I often get the question like, I don't know what path to choose. I'm just so overwhelmed. I just want to be a better speaker and I'm really confused with all these projects and what's in each path. But they keep going through that guide. You can present the information where they can see what projects are in each path and what makes sense for them as to what they really want to do at this point in their life with their communication and leadership skills. So once again, thank you to my panelists and thank you to our members and guests who participated today.